Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with beef brisket cherry tomato sauce. That's right, a delicious, rich, beefy meat sauce, kind of brightened up and freshened up a little bit with some cherry tomatoes. So here's what we did. I had about a 2-pound piece of brisket that I cut in chunks. I also had about, half a pound of boneless beef short rib that I threw in here. So really about 2.5 pounds of any kind of stewing beef. Now what I did is I threw it in my Dutch oven with just like a tablespoon of olive oil. And most of these recipes are going to say brown over high heat in small batches, which takes like forever and works. But this also works. Throw all the meat in, pinch of salt, high heat, like I said, a little bit of oil. And what's going to happen? All the juice is going to come out. It's going to evaporate. The oil doesn't evaporate. That stays in the pot. The beef, now coated with that sticky meat juice, starts caramelizing in the oil, and you get beautiful browned chunks of beef, which make a nice sauce. So if you want to brown it in small batches like the cookbook says, go ahead. But I like this method for this kind of a sauce. This is going to braise forever. Okay, so once it's brown, we're going to add a quart of chicken stock. You can use water. You can use vegetable stock. Don't use beef broth. Why? All right, just trust me. I don't have time to explain. All right, we're going to throw in a bay leaf and just a little pinch of dry rosemary, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon. And that's going to really be it for seasoning for now. I'm going to bring that to a simmer, turn it to low, and just let it sit there while I prep my beautiful cherry tomatoes. I'm using Sweet 100, those are the red ones. I'm using Sun Gold, those are the gold ones. Super, super sweet, but also a little bit sour, a little bit bitter, very fragrant, does amazing things. I'm going to throw this in a blender with some olive oil, some shallots, and some garlic. And I'm going to blend that to a very, very smooth puree. So that cherry tomato with the shallot and the garlic is going to make kind of a beautiful, fresh vegetable juice almost. It's going to just give it so much fresh flavor. And by the way, we're going to get a different flavor profile from the raw garlic and shallot pureed with the tomato than we would have if we had sauteed it with the meat at the beginning, which would have been more traditional. And then just to stay in shape, a couple tablespoons of tomato paste because the cherry tomatoes don't really have a lot of body. All right, bring that back up to a simmer. Put the lid on and let this braise on low for 2.5 hours. Now you thought it was on low when you were simmering your beef just now. All right, but I mean low, like yes, that low. All right, 2.5 hours later, you're like, it's got to be cooked. No, brisket takes forever. That's why it's so delicious. So much connective tissue. So at this point, we're going to uncover it, cook it another hour uncovered, which is going to thicken it up a little because now the water vapors are evaporating. All right, so it's cooked uncovered for an hour. At that point, we're going to add 3.5 or so cups of tomato sauce. That's basically 1 jar. I had some tomato sauce on hand I had made earlier, but you can use a jar, no problem. You're cooking everything else from scratch, it's okay. Don't feel bad. All right, optional here, I'm going to put in a little splash of heavy cream. That gives it a little richness. I think I heard Alton Brown one time say something in the milk helps break down the meat, but I could have totally dreamt that. And also it does give it an incredibly cool, beautiful color. Now the rest of this recipe, so easy. Simply simmer this on low, uncovered, until the meat is tender and falling apart. You can smush it with your spoon to break it into tiny pieces. You can leave it in little tender chunks. Up to you. It's your sauce. Of course, you're going to want to taste and adjust the seasoning. Salt, freshly ground black pepper, beautiful. Chili flakes, of course. Cayenne, do you even have to ask? Now, as far as pasta shape, I decided to boil some penne pasta, which I think works perfectly. This would be awesome on rigatoni. And of course, some freshly grated Reggiano on top. That is a magnificent meat sauce. By the way, if you don't know how to finish a pasta recipe, go watch some of our other videos. You don't ladle the sauce over regular plain pasta. You got to meld it together. All right? So there's a technique. So go check out some of the other videos for that. And this was, like I said, amazing. The tender, beefy, super flavorful brisket, the brightness, the freshness of the cherry tomato. All right, just worked beautifully. Now I have to preface that by saying I'm a huge fan of my cooking. But even so, I thought this came out really well. I really hope you go find some beef brisket and cherry tomatoes and give it a try. So go check out the site. All the ingredients are there. And as always, enjoy.